Hey y'all, welcome back to Homestead in the City. I'm Zach, and today we're going on our May garden tour. All right, and starting off up near the patio area in the brick raised bed, Percy has been working very hard digging. And like I said, we're gonna eventually make this into another fish pond. So we did a little bit of a test. The pond liner wasn't that I got, it wasn't long enough to reach all the way, so we're gonna have to get a new one. But eventually, this whole area will be filled up and connected to the rain system. And speaking of the rain system, this is the newest expansion. We've got a couple of barrels that we put some rain barrel conversion kits on, and some splitters, and just daisy chained them. And then we're right now just using some hoses to kind of connect them to the rest of the system throughout the yard. And they are currently just sitting under the drip line of the house because we don't have gutters. So it's not the most efficient, but they do gather water. And this is kind of at the top elevation of the whole system. So everything that comes in from the gutters here will eventually go downhill. And we've even just used this little kind of mesh. It was a door screen. Used it as a little table area because the water can still go through, and we can rinse out stuff and put it on there to drain. And then of course we've got our earth boxes still that are lining the edge of the patio. I think the biggest change is just this carrot has gone totally into bloom. So we're gonna get tons and tons of seeds off of this, hopefully, and grow lots of carrots in the fall. And then stepping off of the patio, we are in our orchard area, and right now, everything is not going well. My blueberry is kind of dying back. I'm not sure what's wrong with it, but we did get a few little blueberries on it, but then the birds got it. And so, of course, as we've said, this year is mostly just a soil building year. And so we've got our beans and sunflowers and a mix of things for the most part in these beds. I do have this elder right here that is in flower, and then over here I do have my peach tree. It's our first fruit tree in the orchard. And then at all of these tripods, which actually I'll talk about in a second, I have, this one isn't doing the best, hops growing in. So we're gonna try to grow some hops this year and see some different things that we can do with that. So these should eventually go all the way up all these tripods and along the fence over here. Oh yeah, we've also got several avocados popping up all over. I've just started taking pits whenever we get avocados from the grocery store and planting them directly in ground. And my hope is that one day one will be cold hardy, and then we can maybe get a new variety out of that, but we'll see. Okay, so these tripods that are all in the middle of the fruit orchard area right now, they were some of the tree branches that the power company trimmed from back here where the power lines are. So I asked them just to drop everything in the back corner, and they did. And then I took some old socks and used them to lash together all of the pieces. And so they're just gonna act as trellises this year, like I showed you a second ago for the hops back there behind me, and for some peas and probably squash and loofah on the rest of these. Let's see, and we'll check out some more of the orchard area. We do have this banana tree that's coming in pretty well. We got that from our neighbor Sue. And then I believe that is some turkey tail mushroom growing on some of the border logs. And what else do we have? So this row was probably the busiest one last year, had the most growing in it. Again, this year already had a head start. I believe there we have some yarrow, some sage, we've got comfrey, I have a tomato here, some mint, I believe this is feverfew, some peas, strawberry, onion, I can't remember what this is. I think this is a yucca, more strawberries. This is mountain mint. It's another one of my avocados, elderberry. I think this is a marigold. And another avocado, more comfrey, and a rosemary. So we just keep planting more and more stuff. We want to get a lot of biodiversity in here. Let's see. Oh, I think down here, yeah, I saw my mulberry tree is starting to leaf out. I just took a branch and stuck that in the ground. So lots of stuff growing up in the fruit orchard area. Of course, right now we're still just building the soil. This fall, I think is when we'll really probably get a lot of bare root trees and plant them out and figure out what's gonna go where. But another year of observation and soil building before that. And then of course, beside the fruit orchard area, we have our food forest area. And so that's gonna be a little bit more wild. We do manage it somewhat just to keep the kind of viney plants from taking over too much. But we are kind of letting this go a little more wild. But we do have some strawberries in here. I just put this raspberry in. This is, I believe, my plum that I got from Doco Farm. And, you know, that was another one. We just put a stick in the ground and it's starting to leaf out. We threw a lot of sunflowers in here. I think we have a watermelon popping up right about there. And what else do we have? We've got one of our loquat trees in ground. And over here, we've got our persimmon. And then we've got, I believe this is more avocado. And where are we? Here is my mulberry. So several fruit trees already going in here, and we're just gonna keep adding stuff. Of course, we had the cherry laurels and crepe myrtles that were in here when we moved in. And then the newest addition, where you probably saw Percy digging in the most recent videos, is our latest frog pond. Not sure what we're gonna call this one, but maybe it's gonna be the food forest pond, but it's now sitting kind of at the top of the system as well. We're still getting that all hooked in right now. I'm thinking about using this rain barrel here as kind of a break tank, but we'll see. I did just get it put in this weekend, so don't even have a pump in it yet, but I think we've already got a little bit of wildlife. I pulled some water from the other ponds and we've already got several tadpoles and fish, and so the wildlife moves in quick to water. Percy, is that a nice cool area to rest? You taking a break from working hard? Yeah. And along the back side of the fence behind the food forest, we have our emerging chicken run. And so this is the area that I've been bending over most of the cherry laurel trees, some crepe myrtle, and then we're adding in some loquat, elderberry, lots of vines that we're training along. This is just long-term work in progress, but we're excited about getting chickens fairly soon, hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see how things go. We do still have to build a coop right now. I just have kind of a makeshift lean-to as kind of a demonstration just to show where I'm thinking the coop might go. This is not going to be where we actually, the structure that we actually use for the chickens. But the chicken coop will go kind of in this uphill area. We want them to be as dry as possible, and then they'll have access to this run area. And then of course, at the bottom of the run, at the bottom of the food forest and the bottom of the orchard, we have our fountain pond. Of course, the fountain pond was our first pond on site. It's the one with the most biodiversity. We have tons of frogs. We have the most fish in it. We have 2 kind of semi-permanent planters, multiple logs in it. This is where we bring a lot of our potted up trees, our seedlings and stuff, because the water kind of splashes out around the edge, and so we just kind of use that to mist water a lot of the other plants. And then of course the fountain pond is fed right here. We got a little float valve to keep it from overflowing, and it's fed from the rain barrel over there, and then the outlet goes down to the frog pond area. And our frog pond right now doesn't have any water going into it. We're still kind of tweaking that system, but that hose right there is coming from that upper pond, and so we're still working on getting all of the levels of everything balanced using different methods. We might do a more in-depth video on that. And of course, the frog pond used to be one of Percy's digging spots, and I suppose it really is at the bottom of the whole backyard. It's also where we have one of our banana trees, hoping that all of the nutrients that kind of get filtered through the yard end up at this spot. So hopefully that banana tree will get the most nutrients. And then the frog pond, kind of the same with the water. All of the water in the whole rain system eventually flows downhill to this frog pond, where the most nutrients accumulate, and then a pump goes from that up to this gutter, and then in the gutter we've got several different plants growing hydroponically. And so you can see we can just lift them up and see the roots growing. So doing some experimenting there, and I suppose that is basically it in the backyard. We do have our greenhouse area that is still a mess right now. That's probably not going to be an actual greenhouse for another year or 2, but we'll see. But let's go on down the side yard. All right, and nothing much in the side yard still. We are growing another one of the bananas. It's coming in right there, and then my muscadine is starting to leaf out pretty well, and so eventually we're going to try to grow that up the whole fence line. But other than that, mostly just kind of building soil in here this year. All right, in the front yard we do have our raised beds that we built out of pallets. Not too much going on in them right now. Again, building soil in it. I just put some beans in this morning, and then we have some tiny little different flowers and herbs that are growing up, but nothing much going on in these this year. But hopefully in the fall we'll have some good stuff planted out. So the raised beds are kind of in the middle of the yard, and there's a pathway going to the front of the house that goes through this wildflower area. And so this, again, it takes a while for a good flower bed to get established. We've got a little bit of Indian blanket and calendulas, some spiderwort and hydrangea, and of course that big old azalea that eventually we're going to try to get to take over the entire front porch area. But this area, it's eventually just going to be in total bloom to attract a ton of pollinators in to hit up all of the food crops. Along the side of the driveway we have our rainwater beds. These are the in-ground beds that we intentionally dug down to help catch rainwater that was coming off to reduce flooding in the neighborhood, and then we planted them with a lot of different things. And right now what's popping up is some popcorn and sunflower and a little bit of squash from last year. So eventually, like with all the other beds, once we get the soil built up a little bit better, we'll have kind of a good rotation and have lots of different, probably like tall crops, like more corns, maybe some wheat and rice. We'll try some different things. But right now, just getting that soil built. And then along the other side of the driveway, like with everywhere else, we're still building the soil. This is going to be our berry hedge between us and the neighbors. We're going to probably espalier different raspberries and blackberries along this wattle fencing. We're going to build up the soil back in there, do probably elderberry, mulberry, blueberry, raspberry, strawberry, any berry you can think of. We'll just throw in there and make a great edible hedge that's going to feed us, the neighbors, and the wildlife. This is my mulch delivery driveway. We just got another chip drop earlier this week, or I guess late last week. I believe it's our 10th in this yard, and so we get a ton of mulch delivered. That's what we use for all of our beds and paths, for composting, and so this is a great way to be able to get it delivered and then not worry about having to get it all done in 2 days. And so I can just bring my wagon up right here. I've got a pitchfork. I load up the wagon, take it to the back, or I'll use it throughout here. And then one of the biggest things that we've done with all that mulch is the centerpiece of the yard. Now, when we moved in, this water main cover was at the level with the rest of the yard, but as you can see, we have added a ton of mulch, and now we have, I think, about 3 feet of organic material up here in the center of the yard. There actually are a couple other trees buried under here, along with these guys that you can see. But if you remember from, I believe it was March or April, it was spring of 2022, we had a massive delivery of trees dropped in, and we didn't know what we were going to do with them. So those ended up being the kind of center point, centerpiece feature of the yard, and we just built up around them with mulch. We're adding in plants around some of the edges, and then we've added this pond right here, and we're just gonna keep adding more plants that'll bring in more wildlife, and just making this the beautiful centerpiece of the yard. And then sometimes we just use it as a little conversation pit. And if you do live in our area, any Thursday we have garden chats out here. You can hit me up if you want the location, want to hang out with us. It's a great way to meet our neighbors, and even if you don't live in our neighborhood, you're welcome to join us and maybe get some inspiration on something that you can do in your neighborhood. So that's all we got for today. If you want to keep up with more, just go over to our website, hitc.city. You can sign up for our newsletter. That's also going to have links to our Instagram. We post a lot of content on there too. And of course, our blog. It's going to have recipes for some of the stuff that we do with the stuff that we grow, and some of the stuff that we just get at the grocery store, because it's Homestead in the City. So go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more of these, and we'll be putting out more content very soon. See y'all.